welcome back to Carrville Creations. I have got Mr. Bob Faul here with us. He carves ducks. Y'all are not going to believe this. I mean, well, he does ducks, birds, fowl. You do
shorebirds,
yeah,
and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's got a gift, and we're going to let him tell him a little bit something about himself, and then we're going to watch him, and he's going to show us how he creates these things.
Okay. My name is Bob Faul, and we're just emigrated down here from Maryland. We came down here to live with Jenny on her property because we had a 2.5 story house up, and we were both getting up in age, and it was getting harder to run up and down steps. So we came down here. This was a 35 by 35 metal shed, and a good friend of ours who's a carpenter, real good carpenter, along with Jenny's design mind, made our little barndominium. So this is where we lived for the last 2 years, and Alma passed away in July of this year, and it was something to get over first.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
We had just celebrated 55 years together.
That's a long time.
It's a lifetime. So I'm working my way back out of that front. You know, enough of that. I just thought I'd give you an idea of what.
Let me get that for you.
I have a pattern that I drew years ago, and what I do is take the pattern, draw it out on a piece of wood, a top pattern and a side pattern. And so once I cut it out, let me run it real quick on the bandsaw, and that'll give you an idea of what goes on, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let me move these drink cups right here. Had some water.
That's okay.
And show him the drawing. Show the drawing.
Okay.
On the wood. There you go.
It's a side pattern and a top pattern. Gives me my basic shape to work with.
That's already neat. I can't wait to see everything else you do.
Sawdust has been the bane of my carving career. I used to carve at home in the basement, and it went all through the house. So I had to develop a system whereby I would get rid of the sawdust. I'm just drawing a center line on there because all it is rounding off to the center, and it keeps your symmetry. And I don't want to mess up your sound system, but
hey, you do what you got to do. We're gonna watch you do this. Watch you do your thing. I bet it's relaxing, isn't it?
It does. It keeps me halfway sane.
Yeah, I craft and paint and do all this stuff too, and I write, and that's my outlet. You know.
Right.
Keeps your mind busy.
It's a sawdust, I mean a vacuum out in the sand out there that so I mean you can see the shape of it starting to come out of it, and that's it takes about 15 minutes, something like that, to do, to rough out the body. Then I drill a hole in the end of it, put a piece of dowel in there, and carve a bill.
Okay, so you kind of drill the hole here, and then you put the dowel
drill
on
a hole in there and insert a dowel into it, and then I just make it shape it of the bill.
That's a great way to do it.
I go through a lot of dowel. My compressor's off out there. I gotta turn it on.
What kind of wood do you make? What do you use?
When I was working for the state up in Maryland, there's Paulownia is the wood that I use. Feel how light it is.
That is light. I thought that was heavy.
It's Pawlonia, and it grows along river bottoms and stuff like that. It's a wet wood.
Yeah.
And it grows real fast, and usually there's a hollow spot in the middle of it. But there was at the state park I was working at the time, they had a blowover, a tree blowover, and it was about that big around, probably 40, 50 feet tall. And so I went as a ranger in the park. I went out and cut it out of the roadway and all like that. And I knew what kind of tree it was, and I asked the manager if I could have the tree. He said, yeah, so I cut it off. I brought it down here. I brought the whole tree with me. I had a U-Haul truck full of Paulownia wood when I came down here.
How long does it take it to dry out for you to use it, or do you have to let it dry out?
You know, because what will happen is it'll shrink as it dries. And so if you do a bird out of a wet wood and then over a year or so it dries out, then it's not going to be the same thing for sure. So yeah, it takes probably 6 months to a year.
Do you put it in something special to dry it, or just leave it out?
Leave it out.
Okay, cover it up obviously so the rain.
The general rule is an inch a year for the, that it'll be dry. It goes into the wood an inch a year, and they're saying certain things you could do to accelerate that. If you put it in a warm spot and a fairly dry spot, it'll leach the water out of it pretty quick. But
could you use an oven to dry it out? Like, are you able to?
You can, but I did not.
Okay, but you would be able to do that on a small piece. And you're like, I need to dry this out quick. I want to get it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Do that.
Okay.
So, and it's.
I'm gonna tell you, you don't think this is a big deal. This is a big deal here. This is neat. This is talent right
I
here.
love it. I love it.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Sometimes you go to cut a piece of wood and it'll have a bad spot in the middle of it. So you just don't know what's in there.
Do you start over with that, or do you use it in your arm?
I'll use it if I can. I hate to throw it away.
I know, right?
Because it's such a good carving. When I first started carving, I was worried about not being able to produce the same thing every time. So a friend of mine made me a duplicator. So I could put a small piece of wood in it with a pattern piece, and it was just like a key machine. It would turn and it would move down past the saw blade, and it would cut a relatively same body every time.
Yeah.
So he made me one. I didn't like using it because most of the stuff I did, of the shorebirds anyway, were kind of unique.
Yeah.
And they weren't something that you, but the smooth body duck decoys, you could have the same blank to work with, and that was very good.
Now, I read on your biography that some of your birds move. How do you make them move like that?
Well, I try and put movement into them. I don't, they don't move per se, but the head will turn. I put the head in a turn position so it looks like it's got some life in it.
Okay, I understand.
That was kind of a funny story. When I first started carving, my wife was a nurse all her life, and she was working shift work, and she bought me an electric die grinder. It's basically a motor like this, where you can put a 1/4-inch burr in it, and she bought me a die grinder for my birthday. She had just come home from work and went to bed. She said she was asleep until noon. I said, that's fine. And what she did was she gave me a piece of 2x4 in this die grinder, and she went to bed, and I started carving, but I learned a very important lesson. It got caught in the wood and came back over the top and tore the top of my thumb off. And so she didn't get no sleep, and I didn't carve for the rest of the day. It was just but if it catches in the wood, it'll walk right around that wood like that and catch your finger.
Yeah. It probably don't do that much with this kind of wood, right?
No.
Yeah, it's so
But
soft.
I used to use flex shaft tools like that, but I broke so many shafts, and I just because it would get caught in my clothing.
Yeah. These
These right here last forever. These pneumatic tools. You keep a little oil in them. And what I like to do are the something that's kind of unique. If I saw in a book a bird that I hadn't done before, I like do. I don't like to do the same thing all the
yeah,
time.
you got to change it up a little bit.
It's not boring, but it's not.
Do you use the same pattern, or would you draw out a different pattern?
It depends on what bird it is. You know, I
Okay.
mean, for a new bird, yeah, obviously a new pattern.
Yeah.
But for sandpipers, I'll use the same pattern.
Okay, I understand.
But you can do a lot of things with that. I can cut the head off of this with a bandsaw and turn it just a little bit, and then take a little wedge out of it like that and put the head down. I mean, it's like in a feeding position.
Yeah.
So it's you can do a lot with it. A lot of variations on the same thing.
We're getting ready to put the beak on now, right?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, that's some cut already.
It's a dowel, right?
Yes, ma'am. Jenny said to come out here and clean up my shop. Well, if I cleaned it up, I wouldn't know where nothing was.
It's organized chaos. You're chaos, right?
It is. Absolutely.
That's the way my craft room is. How long does it take that wood glue to set up?
It's probably 45 minutes to an hour. It'll be in there solid, but I won't wait for that to happen. I'll just I can be working on it.
So you can work on it while it's still
Yes,
while it's
ma'am.
not okay. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Jenny said you wanted to know my favorite Bible verse.
Yes, sir.
I always liked Romans 8:28. For those who love God and are called according to His purpose, all things work together for the good. It's hard to see sometimes what the good is, but God's good. You know.
He comes around, no matter what it is. He can make it good. We may not see it at the time.
Yes, for sure. I mean, Alma was about as close to a perfect pregnant. I mean, but she couldn't sing a lick. Couldn't hold a tune. Now she's probably mezzo soprano in God's choir up there.
You're right.
It's she was funny. She tried and tried, but she couldn't carry a tune in a bucket.
That's because her gift was other things. She painted your decoys.
She painted all my decoys. My name was Robert Allen, so I just used my initials, R.A. Faul, and our shop was R and A, Robert and Alma. My mother set me up with her. She came home from work one night and said,
I got this real awesome girl I want you to meet. And that didn't go well. I mean, not that, I mean, I didn't stay around for her to meet her. And I went away on deployment with the National Guard for a couple of months down to Florida. And when I got back, I got the feeling about walking out on her. And I called her and she answered. And then 6 months later, we were married.
Been together 55 years.
Yeah. That was truly a match made in heaven. Pastor told us when we were getting counseling, because if you both give 55%, or even 60%, you know, there's always something left over. And the places that need filling in, I use auto body putty.
Okay.
Because you can put it on there and then 5 minutes later you can sand it.
Is that how you got this one so smooth?
That's the blue. Well, no, it's the blue up
the
here
blue.
where it needed to fill in.
Okay.
I just take it and mix it up and matching it with my fingers, and then in 5 minutes you can carve it off.
That's amazing.
Sand it, and so it's
this wood amazes me how light it is. That is crazy.
I never knew about. So there was a friend of mine who did a lot of decoys up in Maryland. So where we were at was right in the hub of Decoy Central. It was right on the head of the Chesapeake Bay, and Northeast River came off the Susquehanna River, and it was quite the spot for the canvasbacks. They said at the time, in early 30s and 40s, it was when the canvasbacks came to light on the river to block out the sun. There were so many of them, so
wow.
many, and he was. Some of the decoys, the old birds that I got up on the around the living room on top of the. We made little shelves up there, and some of those came off the river that had blown out of a decoy rig. And a friend of mine who worked, he was a banker, but he lives in Dave Point, and he would go along the beach and pick up decoys after they were done hunting. So Charlie Borden was a good friend for a long time, and he's the one that got me interested in carving. And some of the old timers that were doing a lot of decoys, the Joe brothers and Madison Mitchell and people like that were famous for the decoys. Was only 15 miles away from the house. So I mean, Madison Mitchell was a funeral director, and he had a duplicator in the back of his shop, and he would make decoys after he got done, doing a funeral or something like that. But most of the people were very stuck up. They were good. But they're mostly all gone now. I won't be around that much longer myself. But
well, I'm glad I'm getting to meet you and see your craft, and the good Lord opened up doors, and I'm meeting so many people, and it makes me excited.
This is kind of an antique style with using a nail for a bill.
I was wondering if that was what that was.
Yeah, it's an old cut nail.
That's amazing.
But every kind of thing you can think of, I did. Lots of little swan. I've done elephants.
Oh, you do elephants too?
I did dead elephant.
What? Look at that. That is so. So you do animals too, not just
I
birds.
try to do anything, yeah.
That's a good. That's
My other daughter up in Maine, she loves polar bears, so I did her a polar bear, and it turned out real pretty too.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So what do you do with this right here? Do you kind of make it to a point?
I'll make it to a point, and I'll carve the top down, roll the top off.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I mean, you just draw a center line in that too, and work to the center, and that way your symmetry is.
That makes
preserved.
sense. I never thought about
Yeah.
putting the line and working toward the line. That's pretty neat.
That keeps it in line. I mean, it makes a good shape that way.
Yeah.
Let's turn this off. The duck decoys, I had some of them that had and I can show you what the duplicator did. I'm sorry, can I back up there just a little bit? This is how it came off the duplicator.
Oh, that's how the decoy came off?
Right, I made a pattern piece, and I put it in the machine and hammered it. This is a piece of Polonia. Okay. I mean, not Polonia, cedar. And
so the duck decoys were made on cedar. Made out of
some
cedar.
of them were.
Okay.
So what I would do is take the bands off, cut it off here, and cut the front off like that, and this body would kind of. This is the merganser body, and this is kind of how that would come out after I smoothed it off.
Okay.
And then I put a head and neck on it from that point.
And then you put the head you want. Are all the bodies similar in form? And then you put the kind of okay.
No. Each one is different.
Okay. That is just something else. That amazes me.
And I started making. I mean, Jenny will show you. I made hummingbirds. I started making hummingbirds because I love hummingbirds.
I love hummingbirds too.
And so I wanted to make flowers, but I didn't want to go to all the trouble of carving flowers. So I took pine cones and cut them off and just made flowers.
Oh man! And then you could paint them whatever color you want to. Yeah. That's amazing. That's a good idea. That's a really
worked out. It worked out fine. It's a good illusion.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, this is my world out here.
This is your sanctuary in here, isn't it?
These are some half-sized Canada geese over there. A lot of them.
These?
Yes.
Do you mind if I pick one up?
No, there's a wood duck.
This one?
That's a wood duck on the right.
This one?
That's a wood duck. And the others are half-sized Canada geese.
Look at there. And these are set up for Jenny to paint?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing.
That's amazing. If I didn't know now, Duke, what are you doing? This dog was a puppy, I say an itty bitty puppy, out on this roadway up here, and my neighbor came up, said he was going to take him to the SPCA. I said, just let me have him. And
he's been your companion.
He was 3 pounds. His head was bigger than he was. Now is bigger than he was.
Now he's your little companion.
He's a good dog. He's a very obedient dog, but that shock collar keeps him obedient.
Yeah, we got one of those too.
Oh, so I mean, this is my lair. I got to keep sharp. Everything out here was. I mean, eventually we get dull, and I have to sharpen it because woodworking is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So Alma got the idea. She was going to put a tourniquet on all my tools out here because I was cutting myself on a regular basis, and but it's fun. Keeps your mind occupied. Constantly thinking about what you want to do in order to make it better.
Yes.
All the time better.
Yes.
So, and I listen to K-Love Radio out here. All that's my radio station.
Oh yes, we love our K-Love.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this, and I really appreciate it. Let's turn around here so we can wave off to the camera, and so we can give it a farewell.
Yes.
think y'all join in next Saturday because his daughter Jenny's going to be back. She's going to be painting decoys
Yes.
or birds.
Praise God. She did. Because I had to have somebody to paint. My
Yes.
wife died, and that just left a hole in the RNA fall.
Completely understand.
Okay.
We'll see y'all next Saturday. Thank you for watching.